everybody, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the all-new Devil Saviour DS07 and DS08, also known as Hightower and Scrapmetal, based on their appearances from Revenge of the Fallen. Now, if you are after adding these to your collection, they are currently available and in stock right now over at Bombusby, which was formerly known as Heat Toy. They are essentially the same company, I just believe, that they've slightly rebranded. But these two figures are really interesting, not only because this is actually the first 2-pack that we're getting from Devil Saviour, but we are just so close to actually completing their Devastator. And believe me, when we get to the end of the video where I show you the combined mode, oh my goodness, it's going to be a fantastic looking figure. Now, before we take a look at both of these, we do get some additional accessories. I do believe these are hip replacement pieces for their version of Overload. For those who own that figure, you guys all know that the ratchet joints were ridiculously tight on that particular release, so they have given you some replacement pieces for you to poke out and of course reinsert, which is a really nice touch. And we've also got some additional pieces for Demolisher, which I'll showcase when we actually do combine Devastator, hopefully towards the end of this year. And we also do get included the enemy scrotum. This is the actual enemy scrotum that Devastator shall possess in Devil Saviour form, and that looks really awesome. You can see some fantastic detail and very authentic to how it appeared in the movie. But taking a look at these two figures, these are actually really interesting. So essentially they appear to have been based on concept art, as their designs are very different, especially in regards to Scrapmetal when in comparison to what we got from the Studio series. So we'll start off with Hightower, as out of the two, he's probably the most straightforward. This guy looks fantastic in construction mode. Much like all of these figures, the paintwork truly is exceptional. I think it looks awesome. You can see here the weathered effect that we've got going along the side. The yellow itself actually looks tarnished. You can see how we've got this really nice darker wash applied over the top just to give you that gritty feel. And we've also got some amazing detail going on for these actual treads. You can pick out all of the rust, and I imagine where the sand's been clogging it. That looks super cool. We've got the cockpit there, which has been detailed so nicely with a very nice reflective tin. And as we take a look here towards this entire section, you can see we've got proper die-cast chains which just look awesome. Really nice attention to detail there. And of course we've got this section which can swing every single way that you would want it to. As we take a look here from a back perspective, I actually think this conceals really well. You can actually collapse the ratchet joint in further, but it is quite difficult to pull that down, so I personally do opt to leave it out. And we have got 4 caster wheels on the bottom, meaning that this guy can in fact roll reasonably smoothly along the ground. He definitely doesn't glide along, but it is by no stretch of the imagination bad. Now, in regards to accessories, we do get these 2 machine guns which store here, so you are going to want to remove those for robot mode anyhow. And then we also do get this really menacing claw. Now, this will in fact actually replace this section for robot mode, and you can see here the detail on this particular piece also looks awesome. Fantastic looking sculpt as well as paintwork. And in regards to transformation, let's get straight down to it. So to begin with, you're going to want to remove this section here and just stick this piece up in the air. We can then take this, of course, insert that into the slot. I then like to come here to the treads and just attach those, and of course repeat the same process, so just attach that section. You're then going to want to apply a little bit of pressure to these regions just to bend the plastic slightly so that you can then detach them. They are held in via these slots, so once that's detached, we can then take this piece here, lift this up, which should allow clearance for this entire section to actually come all the way up. And you can see we've got some tabs and slots there that they will just simply snap into. Really nice conversion on that, in my opinion. And then of course we're going to want to come here to the back, just split this entire region here for now. Come here to the underside, take these 2 sections, just split all of this out and essentially extend it. We're then going to want to rotate this middle section. So you're going to want to keep this piece fixed and then just rotate this middle piece all the way around, ensuring that the tread doesn't bump into the chains. And we can just bring this entire region around. And then of course realign it in its new position. And something which I failed to mention is just check out the detail on these pieces. That is so awesome. What you can then do is come to this piece. Now, I would recommend to disengage this sooner rather than later, as it can be difficult to get the head out if you do transform this region first. So pull the head, rotate that section around, and then compress that in. And then what you're going to want to do here is shift this entire piece up. And then you can see here that we've got these bracket sections. These are essentially going to align up with some of those slots that we've got there. So just compress those like so. And then with this, you can see we've got a tab and a slot that you'll just snap that section in. And then of course snap that section in. We can then turn our attention here to the back. You're going to want to hinge these sections here up. We can then take these, fold that in, and then these are going to flare out and just collapse that there. Of course, repeat the same process, so just collapse all that in just like so. What you'll then want to do is bring this section here forwards, take this piece, extend this out, and then just collapse this down like that. And we can proceed to bring all of this to the back, and then just collapse that section in as well, so that we're left with something that looks along the lines of this for now. We can then rotate these ratchet joints around so that we've got the nicer piece facing the front. And of course, repeat the same process here for this side. Rotate this around. This can be rather fiddly to do as the ratchet joints are super tight and these tabs don't hold in the best. But once that's complete, we can then take this, shift that up, collapse the tread, much like the Studio Series version, and then it's just a matter of rotating this around. And then, of course, repeat the same process for this side. So slide that down, snap this piece down, and then, of course, rotate that around like so. Pull the head forwards, take the arms, extend those here, and then these sections are going to fold up. And, of course, repeat the same process. And then it's just a matter of essentially getting this guy all tidied up. Now, the actual crane section you can pose around in a couple of different ways. So you can have it at the back, or you can have it as more of a weapon coming towards the front. I personally don't mind either way, but that is essentially Hightower fully transformed up into robot form. Now, this particular section you can also rotate around to give you the impression that he's got missiles. Personally, I do just tend to compress that here and leave this here at the back. I personally think it looks a little better, but of course it will be up to your own personal preference. And as mentioned beforehand, certainly an incredibly wacky design. He's by far one of the weirdest Devil Saviour figures we've gotten so far, although actually sticks fairly faithful to what we saw from the Studio Series Deluxe class figure. You can see as far as the detail goes, once again, it's really impressive, especially where that weathered paint is concerned. The face sculpt looks very reminiscent to the Studio Series Deluxe version. You can see we've got some nice red eyes as well as gunmetal for the main faceplate, but the actual crane section too I think looks fantastic, especially with this more razor sharp claw here at the top. And of course you could utilise this as a missile pod if you so desired, but the way the treads all come together I think works really nicely. Of course we actually have those baby T-Rex-esque hands, which I actually think look really goofy, but of course this is something that we would probably actually see from a Michael Bay movie. You can see we've got some nice detail where the finger's concerned, although I will say in comparison to the rest of the yellow, the plastic here does look slightly cheap, probably down to the simple fact that they are one of the very few areas which aren't painted. So the hands are not painted, and nor are these sections. You can see they've got perhaps a tiny little bit of silver applied, but they definitely don't look as good as what we've got going on there. So that is slightly unfortunate, and I really have no idea as to why it weren't cast out of the same type of material that we've got going on here. But as far as the design is concerned for a Hightower, is pretty much what we've all come to know and expect from this particular character. I think it works really well, and as far as the articulation goes, we get a ball joint here at the head which can look up and down. Also we get a hinge joint which allows you to raise and lower the head, and of course it can look left to right. The arms are on hinge joints, so can hinge forwards and backwards as well as rotate left to right. We also do get a double joint there at the elbow, full wrist rotation, and the legs are actually really articulated, but as mentioned these tabs don't stay in all that well, so every now and again they will actually detach, which is a shame, but they can go forwards and backwards. Rotation here at where I presume the bicep or the thigh would be. We also do get a lower rotation here, and then a double joint here allowing you to just move these out in whatever way you so desire. So definitely a very cool and interesting looking character. And in regards to accessories, you can take those machine guns and I guess give him tiny little cowboy pistols, and there you've got Hightower with those machine guns. And if I just bring in the other one so you guys can see how that looks, definitely very goofy looking, but I actually think is a really cool looking figure. And then we turn to Scrap Metal. Now Scrap Metal, out of the two, I personally think is the most interesting. His robot mode design is completely bonkers and honestly is actually really creative. So we do get a few accessories for this guy, and I have actually attached it here towards the back. This is mainly meant for his combined forms. Of course, in the movie Devastator had these harpoons that he would use to fire up the pyramid, and that is essentially what this section is. So you'll see more of this when we actually do get him into combined form, but it does just tab on the back here for the construction mode. As far as the detail on this goes, I think it looks excellent, especially for the scale. This is one of the smallest Constructicons that we've gotten out of this line so far, but they definitely haven't cheaped out at all. You can see some terrific detail going on for the treads, as well as here for the main scoop section. We've got what appears to be like sand and rust, and you've got all of the paint which is chipped off over time, which I think looks excellent. You can see the grille there at the back, and the actual cockpit too has been sculpted so well. You can see all of that terrific detail as well as paintwork, and it really does look fantastic. I'm thoroughly impressed with how this particular set of Constructicons have turned out, and I just cannot wait to complete it. So of course, I believe we've only got one arm and then one leg to go, and then the figure is completed. But definitely really awesome. As far as the articulation goes for this mode, you can lift this particular scoop section up. It is on ball joints, and of course we also do get some caster wheels on the bottom. So much like Hightower, he can roll along the ground, albeit not the best. Now, in regards to his transformation, he's also fairly straightforward. You're just going to want to take these sections here, collapse those. We will then take this, disengage this region, and you're actually going to want to fold this section here over the top, and then take this scoop piece and fold that section there forwards. We can then come here to the front, extend this out, and just separate all of these components, just like so, and then rotate here so that the front is now facing the back, and then rotate here so that the front is also facing the back on all of these claws, just like this. We can then turn our attention here to the front. You're going to want to disengage these tabs, so just pull away and then move forwards. That will then allow you to shift this entire section forward, pull this section forward as well until it snaps into place. Of course, reveal the head, just like this. We can then take this canopy, and you're going to want to detach this, which will then allow you to take this region here, just move that back, and pull that forward until it does actually lock there into place, and then of course just snap that there over the top. We can then take these sections, and they are in fact actually going to slide into these slots, so push all the way back until they do snap in, just like so. Lift this section up. We can angle these sections here down, just making sure that everything is aligned up appropriately. And then with this piece, you can bring that down here with these legs. You're supposed to hinge these here out to the sides, bring this one forwards. So you can see already an incredibly wacky looking design. And then some final touches would be here for the arms. So bring this out, extend this, bring this claw down, and then just rotate there at the bicep and repeat the exact same process. So bring this section around and down. And there you've got scrap metal fully transformed up into, as mentioned, an incredibly wacky, however, really, really awesome looking robot mode. As far as a comparison would go with the Studio Series version, I think that the design of this just destroys it. It looks so awesome. And it's really such a shame that we never saw this particular character model in the movie, as I think this would have resonated really well with those who love the Bayformers. You can see in regards to detail, we have a very scrap metal-esque looking head design. I think that's turned out super well. You can see awesome looking paint as well as here for the torso. The arm design is a little spindly, but most of these Constructicons were really spindly, like Mixmaster and of course Scavenger. You can see we've got some lovely detail going here with some gunmetal grey as well as the silver. I think that's all turned out super well. You can actually take these as well and angle these sections down if you were so inclined to do so. And then you can see here for the scoops, I just think this is so awesome. He's like a quadruple Decepticon, which is just really interesting. In regards to his articulation, we do get a ball joint here at the head, which can look up and down, and we also do get an amazing joint which allows him to look left to right, and also you can utilize the transformation joint to lower and raise the neck. We get a hinge joint here at the arm, up and down, as well as out to the sides, rotation at the bicep, 90-degree here at the elbow. The claws can open and close, and depending on how far you push this section down, you can give the impression that it is actually a thumb, which is quite interesting. Due to transformation, we surprisingly do get a waist joint, which is just super wacky. And here for the legs, these can kick forwards and backwards, hinge forwards and backwards as well, hinge here at the knee, and of course hinge joints and ball joints here for all of the feet. And then this one here at the back is merely just on 2 hinge joints, but really does help to stabilize this guy. So I personally am super impressed with how he's turned out. Definitely very wacky, but will be by far one of the designs that stands out the most across the entire Constructicon lineup. Turning to some size comparisons, here we've got both Scrap Metal and Hightower by Devil Saviour paired next to one another, and I actually think the scale works really well with these guys. I actually have all of my other DS Constructicons in their combined form, so won't be able to give you a direct robot mode comparison, but these guys are definitely the smallest by far. They're roughly, I would say, maybe small Voyager, very large Deluxe in terms of scale, and especially in regards to the plastic. Now for some mainline comparisons, here we've got the Devil Saviour Hightower compared next to the Studio Series version, and you can see that once again they're very similar in regards to the design. But then when we take a look at the Scrap Metal comparison, they really are very different, and as mentioned beforehand, if I had to choose between the two, I'd choose the DS version any day day of the week. I just think the design is so cool, and as mentioned, it would have been awesome to have seen this guy running around in Revenge of the Fallen and probably being easily taken out by some of the Autobots or even some of the Nest soldiers, but definitely really cool design. And you can just see in regards to the Studio Series version, which was a little more humanoid, I actually thought this version of Scrap Metal was one of the weakest Constructicons from Hasbro, just as I thought the design was so boring and lazy. But this is the design that we should have gotten, and I'm so glad to get it here for the Devil Saviour Constructicons. So, turning to transformation into what is the mode that I'm pretty certain you guys have all been really excited about, that being the combined form. Now, the instructions do actually suggest that you keep Hightower in his construction vehicle mode for this, and then that you keep Scrap Metal in his robot form. It's just a little easier as far as the conversion works. So, we'll start off firstly here with Hightower. He's actually really straightforward. So, to begin with, you're just going to want to take this section here, detach that. We can then take this back plate, disengage this region, bring this here all the way to the front until we're left with something which looks along the lines of this. We can then take this section, hinge this out of the way. We're then going to want to apply some pressure to these sections just to detach them from that centerpiece, and instead of pulling them away, you're actually going to want to push them forwards this time, as they're going to lock on to this almost sensor section. So just snap that in there, and of course peg that piece in there, which is really awesome. And then you can just bring this here all the way back just to straighten out those particular pieces. You're then also supposed to replace this very menacing robot mode claw with the more neutral claw, so just insert that section in there, and then this will in fact actually clip around this particular piece, just like this. You're then going to want to come here to the underside, and this tab will in fact actually peg here into this slot. So just peg that in there, and of course come to this side and repeat the exact same process, so that we're left with something which looks along the lines of this, and that is essentially Hightower ready to be combined with Scrap Metal. So let's bring that guy in. So here you're going to want to bring this torso piece forwards, extend these sections out, and then just compress the head into that cavity. We can then pull this section here forwards, transform the arms back into their vehicle mode position. So just fold all of this in here until it does snap into place, and of course come here to this side and repeat the exact same process. So just collapse all of this in upon itself. Try your best to align this up just like so, and then we can just straighten these claws out. Take these pieces, pull those pieces backwards, and then bring in the harpoon, as this is actually going to tab in via this tab and then this slot. So snap that piece in there first, and then it can get rather messy due to the chains, but you can see we've got another slot in there that will also peg into, just like so. So that we now have Scrap Metal also completely transformed and ready for combination. So you can see we've got two huge ports here. They're actually going to tab into these huge slots. So bring these pieces in closer, try and get the chains out of the way so that they don't interfere with conversion. So just snap that in there. And then we've also got these pieces here, which are supposed to lock into these hollow spaces. So just snap that into place. And there you've got the Devil Saviour Hightower and Scrap Metal fully transformed up and combined into Devil Saviour's Devastator's right or left arm, depending on how you look at it. And I actually think this looks really cool. This is going to be awesome once it's fully completed. This destroys the version that we got from Hasbro. Check out all of those chains. Check out all of the detail and the paintwork. This just comes together so nicely. And we've also got an amazing amount of articulation going on for these fingers. Once again, I won't go into too much detail in regards to this, as we are going to take a detailed look at Devastator once he's fully transformed, but you can detach these here and have those fire off much like we saw in the movie, and you can also open these grappling hooks out so that he can of course grapple onto the buildings or onto the pyramids. Now, very quickly, just before we begin to wrap this review up, I will show you the installation of how you can actually attach the arm to what we've got so far combined for Devastator. So we've got Overload, Mixmaster and Scavenger, and now we're about to attach both Scrap Metal and Hightower. I would actually attach Long Haul, but considering we don't have the other leg, he's going to be a massive balance issue in my collection, and I just do not have the room to display him just yet. But in order to demonstrate this, you can see we've got a huge ratchet joint here that's going to slide into this section. So just shoot that in there, rotate this piece here around, and then shift that forwards, and there you've got the arm fully attached onto the body. Once again, I won't go into the articulation of this too much, as I will touch more with that when we actually take a look at Devastator, but I can definitely say this is looking to be an absolute fantastic, astonishing piece, and could potentially be one of the best third-party or maybe even just movie figures in general in my entire collection. And so, some final thoughts here for the Devil Saviour DS07, DS08 Hightower and Scrap Metal 2-pack. I really love this set. As mentioned beforehand, I think the designs in robot mode are super wacky, super bonkers, and are really creative. Definitely where that Scrap Metal is concerned, his design abolishes the version that we got from Hasbro and Takara for the Studio Series lineup, and I think these work exceptionally well. After Mixmaster, the transformations definitely were a lot more pleasant on all of these, and I'd say that Scrap Metal and Hightower, probably due to their scale, are by far the easiest to convert and are definitely the most enjoyable. I've converted these guys back and forth from their construction modes, robot mode and combined modes more times than I probably have any of the other Constructicons put together, so that just really goes to show that the complexity isn't that hard on these figures, but still is challenging enough to give you that almost masterpiece vibe, which is ultimately what we are dealing with here. This is definitely going to be an almost masterpiece Devastator. It would probably even be better than an MP Devastator from Hasbro and Takara, just going by how awesome the paint and detail is, and I'm thoroughly impressed with these guys. I just cannot wait to actually get this just all finally built. So with all that being said, if you are in the market for picking this 2-pack up, it is currently available and in stock right now over at Bombusby, and for that, of course, I will include a link down in the description box below. I would love to know what you think of both this set and the review, and whether or not you have picked up any of the Devil Saviour figures, or if you are looking forward to actually finally completing this guy. I thank you all for watching, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.